Hello everyone, how are you? Hoping you are good understanding regarding with your previous subject. What I taught you means the beginning and the concluding summary of your chapter, A Triumph of Surgery. Now today I am going to start some vocabs which are used in this chapter, word meanings and related characters, how those characters have been characterized in the chapter. Okay, let's begin with the vocabs. The first is bloated sausage. This word is used for tricky. Means tricky is looking like bloated sausage. Means looking like swollen. SWOLLEN. Hasten, to act quickly. Relent, to change the mind's concept. Wrung, to squeeze. Regime, prescribed course for exercise. Tottering, to walk with slow or weak steps. Distraught, extremely worried. Swooned, fainted. This word is used for Mrs. Pumphrey. Despairing, hoping all hopes. No. Lost all hopes. Whimper. Whimper means a low, weak cry. Jostling means to push roughly against something. Scrimmages means confused struggle. Chauffeur means a person. This word is used for a person whose job is to drive a car. Okay, let's begin with the characters. First character is Mr. Harriet, who is the protagonist of this chapter. How is this character being prescribed? Gentleman means Mr. Harriet is very gentleman, genuine man or fellow. Okay, expert veterinary surgeon, you can say, right? Next is good feelings toward especially dogs, right? Next we talk about Mr. Harriet. As you know very well, he is very genuine, gentle and good fellow. On the other hand, Mr. Harriet never thought self welfare. He always cared about animals. He always thought about the welfare of animals, because as soon as he saw the condition of Tricky, he at once suggested Mrs. Pumphrey that it has to be hospitalized, because the condition is going to be very critical and in future you have to face a lots of problem regarding with the health of Tricky, because Tricky is overfeeding. That's why Mr. Harriet suggested good suggestion to Mrs. Pumphrey, right? Next, without any medical treatment, he changed the personality of Mrs. Pumphrey. Means firstly he took the charge, okay, for caring, for giving the treatment to Tricky. On the other hand, he also took charge to change the personality, to change the attitude of Mrs. Pumphrey, because before admitting Tricky in the hospital, Mrs. Pumphrey thought that what I was giving, like cream cakes, chocolates, eggs, brandy, wines to Tricky, these are very beneficial sources of food what I am giving. But on the other hand, what Tricky was overfeeding. All those things were very harmful for Tricky. Okay, that's why he changed the personality of Mrs. Pumphrey. Finally, Mr. Harriet thought that without giving any medical treatment, means on the other hand, exercise was very essential for Tricky, and Tricky was mingled with another dogs. He enjoyed the company of another dogs. He enjoyed the licking of shining balls. He was waiting. He used to wait when my turn will be there to complete my food. Means all these things were very necessary for Tricky. Next, he observed, Mr. Harriet observed feeding presence of Tricky. Means first 3 days, especially first 3 days, Mr. Harriet observed a lot how Tricky responded, how Tricky took all those bowls. Okay, what was the way? Next, he never gave anything what Mrs. Pumphrey used to send. Means the material, the food sources like chocolate cakes and brandy, wines, eggs. Means chocolate cakes she never sent, but on the other hand, fresh eggs, brandy and wines, these 3 things she used to send. And all these things never given by Mr. Harriet to Tricky, because Mr. Harriet's thought was that only doing exercise was the essential part to improve the health of Tricky, not brandy, wines and eggs. Okay, he took all these food. Next, finally he accepted that Mrs. Pumphrey can't live without the presence of Tricky. Okay, now I should call Mrs. Pumphrey to fetch him. And Mrs. Pumphrey acknowledged him very well. Now the next character is our next character is Mrs. Pumphrey. Mrs. Pumphrey, okay, well known lady who is rich, having all the facilities. Okay, all maids, servants were very happy with Mrs. Pumphrey. Okay, she loved to have pet, or you can say pets, and one of them is a small dog whose name is Tricky, right? You can say one of them. Next is she always overfed him, right? Next, she was greatly busy to give extras between the meals. Means the habit of Mrs. Pumphrey was that she always gave many things for feeding. And Tricky never denied all those food objects, because Tricky's fault was that Tricky was very greedy. Okay, Tricky never denied anything, and also Mrs. Pumphrey never denied to give anything to Tricky between the meals, means extras in 24 hours. Okay, Tricky was busy to take all these things, and on the other hand, Tricky never did any type of exercise, physical exercise. On the other hand, resulted on the consequences of this. Tricky fell ill, Tricky became lethargic, Tricky became unconscious gradually, and he became an uninteresting object among all those dogs with whom Tricky met in the surgery. Next, she was tender-hearted or tender, right? She foolishly gave extras, means by mistake she was giving all those things due to malnutrition, because the thinking of Mrs. Pumphrey was that Tricky was suffered with malnutrition. That's why I was giving all these things. It was the opinion of Mrs. Pumphrey. Okay, these are the two main characters of this chapter. I hope you got all these things very well, and in my next video, okay, you will have some new chapters. Thank you.